Hi, this is Mark Farnham with Apologetics for the Church. I'm here with Jeff Mindler, our research assistant. And today we want to tell you about a conference that is coming up to Allentown, Pennsylvania. If you live in central or eastern Pennsylvania or New Jersey, you might be interested in hearing about this. It is a conference on ethics and a Christian view of ethical issues. So, Jeff, tell us a little bit about what we're going to hear at this conference.
Yeah, well, to give a little bit of details, so it's going to be February 22nd, 2025. So in case you're listening to this at a later time and already passed, it's on February 22nd, which is a Saturday in 2025. And it'll be at Cedar Crest Bible Fellowship Church right there in Allentown. So join us if you're able to. We're going to be talking about a bunch of different ethical subjects. What does it look like for Christians living in an increasingly anti-Christian or post-Christian era? So talking about issues relating to value and dignity, image of God, in vitro fertilization, abortion, kind of some major hot topics of our day and age.
Yeah, and the conference is called Christian Ethics in a Post-Christian World. We're going to be talking about the different struggles that we have as Christians as we live in a world that constantly raises new challenges. Think, for example, about in vitro fertilization. Hot topic these days, a lot of confusion about what it is and whether it's moral and ethical. Christians divided on this issue. I've known a number of Christians through the years who have used in vitro fertilization and have wonderful children, and we're thankful for that. But we'll ask the question, are there ethical problems with that? Landmines. Another issue we're going to talk about is the issue of sexuality and gender, specifically transgender. How do we as Christians look at that issue with the heart of Christ, but also a commitment to the biblical view of God creating people male and female, binary sexes, and looking at that issue of that's being thrust upon us today of can we change our gender? How should we treat this issue? Should we go along with it out of a sense of love, or do we recognize that this is a rejection of basic categories that actually can't be changed and harm is done to those who seek to change it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one of the real goals of the conference is to make Christians aware of some of these major ethical issues of our day and to help them think through how should we as Christians think about these issues and how might we have conversations with folks that differ with us on, like you said, the in vitro fertilization issue. How do we as Christians think through that issue? How do we talk with others who might disagree with us? And so the real goal is not only, the informational side, but the equipping side, to equip Christians.
That's right.
How do we think through these issues? And how do we have and approach conversations with folks that might disagree with us, even within, Christian circles? And I imagine if it's anything like last year's conference, the amount of conversations we'll have with folks at the conference and the question and answer times, which were really excellent. So again, if you're able to join us, please do, and, come talk with us, and it'll be a great opportunity for conversations and just a beginning launching point for thinking about a lot of these issues.
And it's important that we as Christians not only know what the Bible says about these issues, but some of these issues the Bible doesn't clearly address. What about surrogacy? Is it a good thing when a woman bears a baby for her friend or her sister or her daughter? A lot of Christians initially, I think, see that as a loving thing, since bringing children into the world is a good thing. But we'll talk about some of the ethical pitfalls. We have several scholars coming in to speak on different issues, such as the dignity of life. Ask the question, what gives us dignity? Those who believe in abortion and believe in ending the life of children in the womb with disabilities like Down syndrome or other things like that. That raises the question, where do we get our sense of dignity as human beings? We have a scholar that's going to come in and speak to that on the level of ordinary Christians. This is not an academic conference. This is for believers to better understand what the Bible teaches. He's going to be talking about how this issue of human dignity starts in the womb and extends all the way through end-of-life issues. Because if you think about it, how many people toward the end of life can no longer do things that they used to do? And so his session is called Dignity Beyond Accomplishment. There are some ethicists who would like to say you only have the protections of human dignity if you can do certain things, and therefore that eliminates the baby in the womb. That eliminates those with disability. It eliminates those who are older with dementia or Alzheimer's. He's going to present this view of the dignity of human beings based on the fact that we are made in God's image. Such an important issue for today.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a point you bring up of it's important for today because these are live issues. These are issues that are currently being discussed in the culture at the level of different governments, passing laws or thinking through legislation. So this is a very live issue.
It is, Jeff. 3% of the people who died in Canada last year died from euthanasia. 20,000 people were euthanized, some against their will. And this is happening in Europe, where in order to preserve medical resources, people are being encouraged to voluntarily end their life. Others are having their life taken against their will. And people might say that's not happening, but it is. There's documented stories in the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal and other somewhat reputable news sources. But around the world, this kind of question is coming. Where do we get dignity? And how do we treat those who don't have their full health? Another topic we're going to deal with is the issue of transhumanism, posthumanism, and the promise of technology, because technology has introduced so many ethical problems in our day. Even things like social media addiction, things like how we are marketed. No longer are products marketed to us. Rather, we as consumers are marketed to companies. And the goal of some people in the technology world to transcend what we are now as human beings. Some who come with an evolutionary worldview want to say that what we are now is human 1.0, and they are actively pushing toward a human 2.0, which is a merging of human flesh, human beings with technology, with computers, with robots. And some have that as the goal for humanity. Well, we need to realize that that is already starting into our world today. 20 years ago, when the movie I, Robot came out with Will Smith, if you go back and watch that movie now, at the time it seemed outrageous that we would have personal robots in our house. But now Elon Musk has introduced human-shaped robots that he promises will be available all around. Now, I'm not so worried about that, quite frankly, but even just the increase in things like drones, video surveillance, camera surveillance in cities and towns, we have to ask the question, how is this affecting our humanity? And all these things come down to the question of how does a mom and dad disciple their children in such a way that the children retain their humanity and don't turn it over to social media companies, don't turn it over to technology, because increasingly our culture is encouraging that, where we are losing key aspects of who we are as people because of technology. So that's another topic that we'll address. Jeff, what are some of the topics that will be addressed in the workshop sessions,
so
if you remember?
Yeah, so I should, as I'm giving one of those workshop sessions. So the topic I'll be addressing specifically is the case for life, which is a Christian case against abortion. So we'll be talking about issues of life and abortion, pregnancy, that sort of thing. And my goal in that session, just as a little sneak peek, is to give the everyday Christian a simple argument, simple way to think through this issue, and in their discussions with other folks who might take a different approach. How can we as believers simply and cogently articulate our position, and how would we go about defending it from a thoroughly Christian worldview? So I'll be trying to provide a simple apologetic, simple defense for life, and hopefully that serves as another tool in the Christian tool belt.
That's good. Because these ethical issues are not separate from apologetic efforts. These days, when you try to witness to people, many times they will raise the question, well, what do you believe about abortion? What do you believe about sexuality? And sometimes they won't let you share more unless you pass the test, the litmus test, the gatekeeping test of, do you agree with me on these issues? So this conference, even though it's on ethics, will have a decidedly apologetic tone to it, so that not only can we as Christians come to know what does the Bible teach, what is carrying out biblical Christian wisdom on these issues, but here's how we can talk about these things in a way that is constructive to conversations with unbelievers, so that we can get to the heart of our witness, which is the person and work of Christ.
Yeah, and that goal is, how do my Christian convictions, how does a Christian worldview inform me of how I'm to think about these issues? And that's really our goal, is to help those in attendance that are going to be there to think through, how do I as a Christian think about these various topics from a thoroughly biblical and Christian worldview, and how should that inform my conversations about these subjects?
And you might think, well, that's assumed that Christians think Christianly. But the truth is, we have been so catechized, discipled by our culture, that unless we are resisting the secular narrative that my body, my choice, my body, my right to create myself in any way that I think, all people are essentially innocent and God owes them a good life, whatever someone calls loving should be allowed. All these things are secular viewpoints of ourselves and our world and these issues. And we want to reinstill a distinctly Christian view, because that will affect how we think about things as diverse as war, economics, racism, the environment, marriage and divorce, immigration. We won't touch on all these issues at this ethics conference, but we're seeking to lay this foundation so that as we encounter these issues, should we have an open border with Mexico, taking in whoever comes? What position should we take on wars and different conflicts going on in the world? How do we recognize genuine racism from false accusations of racism that make us feel guilty for who we are? All these things are so important, because this is the world in which we live. And as Christians, we need to not only know this for ourselves, but also be ready to give an answer. So if you're interested in the conference, again, it's in Allentown, Pennsylvania, at Cedar Crest Bible Fellowship Church, February 22nd, 2025. You can go to cedarcrest.church/ethicscon2025 and find all the information there. I would encourage you to sign up as soon as possible. Last year, the conference held 500 people, and they had to shut down registration. This year, they're trying to make room for more, but the conference will most likely sell out. And if you're interested in hearing these topics and addressing these ethical issues, I would encourage you to sign up sooner rather than later. Any final comments, Jeff?
Yeah, just really looking forward to the conference. Again, sign up, get a group from church to come and experience it together. Great opportunity to think about these important matters together as a church. So sign up early, and we'll hope to see you there.
Yeah, the cost is $10 a person, so very cost affordable. The conference runs from 9 in the morning till 4 p.m., and you can find all those details on cedarcrest.church/ethicscon2025. And our hope is that you walk away, your faith strengthened, your mind thinking more clearly about these things, and your ability to engage in conversation on them to be strengthened. So hope to see you there.